Sebastian Vettel is a four-time world champion who dominated our sport in the early 2010s, but in recent times his career and status among the Formula 1 elites has been put under question. Could all of that have changed, however, if Seb just made a different decision back in 2015? What if Sebastian Vettel joined Mercedes? When Sebastian Vettel joined Ferrari back in 2015, there was a lot of hype around this move. Ferrari fans were hoping that Vettel could take the team back to the glory days of Schumacher, whereas Vettel fans were hoping for a bounce back to form for their hero, four-time world champion. Unfortunately though, apart from really 2017 and 2018, Ferrari never really produced a car that was able to take the fight to Mercedes, and now we are seeing Sebastian Vettel drive at the back of the field with Aston Martin. So we're going to rewind the clock and head back to 2014 and into a parallel universe in which Rosberg and Hamilton's tension became so unbearable that the two could no longer stay as teammates. With Hamilton winning the title that year, he would be staying at the team and Rosberg would be shown the door. But because Alonso is moving to McLaren, there's an opening at Ferrari and Rosberg will fill that seat in Ferrari. With Sebastian Vettel wanting to leave Red Bull at the end of 2014, he would be the first choice to head into Mercedes. Before we get into who wins the 2015 World Championship though, 77% of you watching this video are not subscribed to the channel. So if you are enjoying the content and never want to miss a video, make sure you hit that subscribe button. 2015 was a difficult year to decide. There was only really two people fighting for the championship in the Mercedes car. And whilst Ferrari did have a race-winning car with Vettel, and I do believe that Rosberg would still be able to win races in that car, I don't believe he would ever be able to fight for the championship in 2015. He would, however, secure third in the Drivers' Championship. As for top spot, and Hamilton had an incredible 2015 season, beating a mentally drained Rosberg to the title with 3 races left to go. Over on the other side of the garage, and Vettel was very much back to his best. 3 race wins and a pole position in Singapore, but if he was in the Mercedes, would that be good enough to win the title in his first season with the team and become a 5-time world champion? Well, yes, but I'd say only just. Don't get me wrong, Lewis Hamilton was incredible in 2015, but I think the experience and expertise for Sebastian Vettel of just having more championship fights than Lewis Hamilton has had would give him a slight edge over Lewis Hamilton. The championship would come right down to the wire in Abu Dhabi, but Vettel would be a 5-time world champion. On to 2016 then, and much like our reality, the driver transfers stay the same. You still have Kvyat and Verstappen switching mid-season, Palmer and Magnussen going to the Renault team, and Grosjean going to Haas. So taking a look at the Drivers' Championship for 2016, and as you can see, Rosberg is in 4th, and it's safe to say that Ferrari move isn't necessarily going to plan for him. So again, it's between the Mercedes boys. It's Hamilton versus Vettel. Can Vettel go back-to-back and get his 6th World Championship? No, unfortunately not. Sorry Vettel fans, but Hamilton's just about going to get him on this one. Looking back on 2016, and it was one of Hamilton's best season, only really missing out on the championship due to that misfortune in Malaysia, whereas for Vettel's 2016, it wasn't on the same level. And yes, he would be in a better car, and also off the back of a championship win, but I just don't see him being able to step it up to that level that Hamilton got in 2016. So Hamilton is taking this one and becoming a 3-time world champion. It's now 2017 and we finally have our biggest change in the transfer market compared to our real life season. Rosberg hasn't won the championship in 2016, meaning there is no reason for him to retire from Ferrari, keeping his Ferrari seat. We've got Vettel still at Mercedes, so that's going to stop Valtteri Bottas moving from Williams to Mercedes, allowing him to stay at the Williams team like he was contracted to do in 2017, allowing Felipe Massa to retire in peace. Onto the championship again, and in fact in our real 2017 season we had Lewis Hamilton and Sebastian Vettel going head to head, but if they were in the same Mercedes team, which one of them would come out on top? Would Hamilton go for 4 championships? Would Vettel get the 6th? In fact, it's actually going to be NICO ROSBERG who wins the title for Ferrari, doing something that Vettel never could. 2017 was the first season since 2012 that Ferrari actually made a car capable of winning the championship. And whilst you have the two Mercedes drivers squabbling with each other and taking points off of one another, you'll have Rosberg, who is the #1 driver at Ferrari, with Raikkonen allowing Rosberg through and even holding up the two Mercedes drivers to help Rosberg even further. It would be a very close and rather exciting championship battle between the three drivers, with Rosberg beating Vettel in Abu Dhabi, but Vettel would beat Hamilton to second in the championship. And I know in our season, Hamilton did beat Vettel in 2017, but I think a lot of that came down to car development, with the two cars fairly similar at the start of 2017 before Mercedes development and produced a much better car at the end of 2017. But regardless of all of that, how weird is it to see NICO ROSBERG, a world champion, with Ferrari? But with Rosberg winning a championship, the question now is, will he retire at the end of the season? And for me, no, he wouldn't. The reason I feel like he retired in 2016 was because he was so mentally drained. It took so much effort to beat Lewis Hamilton, and he only just did it in 2016. Whereas if you look at this alternate reality, he's in Ferrari, he's a #1 driver, he's just won the championship, and now the pressure is off of him. So for me, Rosberg stays with Ferrari for 2018. So with Rosberg staying at Ferrari for 2018, let's take a look at the other driver transfers for that season. And well, there really isn't any, because Bottas doesn't have a seat to go to. So he's going to stay at Williams for another season. Despite watching the car decline, there's really nowhere else for him to go. So the rest of the changes are as they were for 2018. But who wins the title in 2018? Can Hamilton finally get that 4th title? Or will Vettel be able to get closer and emulate his hero, Michael Schumacher? Again, it's neither of them. NICO ROSBERG goes back-to-back with Ferrari, winning the 2018 World Championship and becoming a 2-time World Champion. Mad. For similar reasons as 2017, Ferrari actually had the better car at the start of the 2018 season before Mercedes played catch-up and became the team to beat. But you'd have Rosberg scoring all of Ferrari's points, whereas Hamilton and Vettel would again be squabbling, taking points off of each other, and really just handing the championship to Rosberg. In our reality, Vettel struggled massively mentally in the 2018 season because there was so much pressure that Ferrari were putting on him to become the first world champion since 2007. In this reality, Rosberg's just won the championship. He doesn't have to deal with the same pressures that Vettel did, and this would allow Rosberg to have a stronger end to the season in this reality. As for Vettel, in 2018 in our reality was the start of his downfall, and in particular that race in Germany in 2018 because of all the pressure that Ferrari were putting on him. But in this alternate reality, he's won the championship for Mercedes in 2015. There's less pressure on him, and that is going to allow him to perform more to his best across this season. And whilst it was also a fantastic season for Lewis Hamilton in 2018, it's going to again be a really close championship battle between the three drivers, with once again Rosberg coming out on top, Vettel in second, and Hamilton in third. It's 2019 now, and Rosberg is a 2-time world champion, with Charles Leclerc joining him at the Ferrari team. Over at Williams, and Valtteri Bottas really isn't enjoying life over there. He doesn't like now fighting just for a couple of points across a season, so he decides to jump ship and head over to Haas, with the American outfit disappointed with the results from Romain Grosjean in 2018. That's the driver transfers for 2019. Let's have a look at the championship, and it was clear to see from the off that it was only really going to be Mercedes fighting for the title. Leclerc did show promising signs, getting pole positions and race wins across the season, but I think the experience for Rosberg will help him get third in the championship, just beating Verstappen and Leclerc. But as for the title fight, Vettel or Hamilton, who is going to come out on top in 2019? And for this one, I have gone for Lewis Hamilton. After being beaten by his teammate for 2 straight seasons, Hamilton is going to take it up a gear. 2019 arguably was one of Hamilton's best seasons, and that cannot be ignored. And whilst I do think Vettel would be able to take the challenge to Hamilton, losing at around maybe Brazil or even the finale in Abu Dhabi, I think Hamilton's going to take this one and become a 4-time world champion. Now we head into 2020, and we're going to take a look at the driver transfers again, which there aren't any. Rosberg's going to stay at Ferrari, and for me, Bottas is going to be staying in Haas, with all, again, the relevant 2020 transfers that happened in our reality transferring over to this alternate one. On to the fight for the championship then, and in 2020, Max Verstappen started to look like a potential championship contender. In fact, he matched Valtteri Bottas across the whole season. In this reality though, I believe Vettel would be closer to Hamilton, but with those two squabbling and taking points off of each other, this would allow Verstappen to get closer to the title contenders. However, throughout the season, I believe he would just be a little bit too far away to really challenge the two Mercedes drivers. So once again, it comes down to Hamilton versus Vettel for the championship. But with this one, Hamilton looking to try and match his teammate and both be 5-time world champions. However, for me, it's going to Vettel for 2020. Now, there were a few reasons as to why I gave Vettel this one. And Lewis fans, don't get me wrong, because Lewis was unreal in 2020, but mistakes were starting to creep in. There was the crash with Albon in Austria, and also the pit stop mistake in Italy, which lost him points to Bottas. Now put him up against a stronger teammate like Sebastian Vettel, and those mistakes are going to become more crucial. But there is one deciding factor that separates these two and gives Vettel the championship for me, and that is the Sakir Grand Prix. Now, that race was incredible. There was a lot going on, but there was one thing missing, and that was Lewis Hamilton. And with Lewis getting COVID, that would take him out of the championship fight and pretty much hand the title over to Sebastian Vettel, allowing him to become a 6-time world champion. Before we get into 2021, remember, if you disagree with anything I say or have your own ideas of what would happen to Sebastian Vettel if he went to Mercedes in 2015, then let me know in the comment section down below. 2021, and we finally have some spicy driver transfers to deal with. Remember, in 2021, Vettel moved to Aston Martin, kicking Perez out, and then Perez went to Red Bull. None of that would happen because Vettel would be staying with Mercedes, keeping Perez at Racing Point / Aston Martin. Because remember, he had a contract till 2023. This also means that Alex Albon's seat it's still under threat. He's underperforming at Red Bull, but there's nobody to step into that seat. You could say Gasly, but Gasly was never really considered because I think he burnt bridges with the Red Bull team. So Albon is going to be staying in Red Bull. But there is some sad news. After a miserable 2020 season, our 2-time world champion, NICO Rosberg, finally decides to call it quits and retires from Formula 1. On to the championship then, and I think Lewis Hamilton and Sebastian Vettel will be performing at their best, like we have seen for the past 6 seasons they have been together. But despite this, Max Verstappen's campaign in 2021 was one of the greatest we have ever seen, finishing outside of the top 2 only once, and that was with half a car in Hungary. It would be interesting to see the difference between Max Verstappen's approach going up against 2 championship contenders instead of just the one that was Lewis Hamilton. But like in 2017 and in 2018, when you have 2 drivers in the same team taking points off each other, that allows the other driver from a different team to take leadership in the championship, and it's going to give Max Verstappen his first world championship. As for the Mercedes boys, then Hamilton would become the driver most likely to stop Max Verstappen from winning his first title, and this would make Mercedes favour the Brit slightly more, and eventually leading to the demise of the Vettel-Mercedes relationship. 2022 brings us up to date, so let's take a look at how the grid lines up. And with Russell putting pressure on Mercedes to either find him a seat or lose him as a driver, the Vettel-Mercedes partnership would come to an end. But another disappointing season for Alex Albon. Red Bull decide to bring home Sebastian Vettel to partner Max Verstappen in 2022, with Albon going to Williams to to replace the outgoing George Russell, and the rest of the 2022 grid would be exactly the same as it is in our reality. As for Sebastian Vettel himself, he'll be going into 2022 a 6-time world champion with over 80 wins to his name and 90 plus pole positions. And who knows, in a competitive Red Bull in 2022, maybe those numbers could keep on growing.